Welcome to our first episode of r/entitled parents. You're my child. I have the right to poison you. I'm allergic to fish seafood. It's not the anaphylactic type of allergy, thank goodness. So I'm not going to die if I eat some, but I do throw up, have a stomachache and a massive headache for a few hours. Enough fish seafood and I break out in small red hives over my arms. My mother didn't believe it, and as a child, I couldn't stand up to her properly. She'd force me to eat stuff with seafood or fish in it to prove I wasn't allergic, then ignore me as I was sick. One day, she held a dinner party. I was dressed up beautifully and trotted out to parade before the guests. At the time, I was around about 9, precocious for my age and absolutely fed up with my mother making me sick, when she held out a fish cutlet. Fish cooked with vegetables, rolled into a ball, covered in batter and fried, for me to eat. I saw my chance. Me. Loudly. I can't eat that. I'm allergic to fish. Mother. No, you're not. Eat it. Me. I am allergic. I'll throw up. No Asian mother will back down in front of guests for fear of looking like she can't discipline her child. My mother grabbed the fish cutlet, shoved it to my mouth and said in her most firm voice of command, "Eat." So I ate it. Cut to about 10 minutes later. I go up to my mother and tug on her sari to get attention. Me. I don't feel well. Barf. I vomited on her, on the expensive carpet and in full view of all the guests. My mother has a reputation for being a kind, generous, charitable and very religious woman, so in front of all the guests, she couldn't do anything except act sympathetic and send me off to bed to recover. She never made me eat fish or seafood again. Entitled mom tries to deny her dying son his wish and tries to kill him because the books I got for him are satanic. Some backstory. I'm in a D&D group with a couple of friends from nearby, and one of the members of the group was a kid who was about 15 years old. He's a really sweet kid, likes helping other people out, and he's a big fan of Dungeons and Dragons. He also has cancer in both of his lungs. He's from a religious family that basically forces him to act pure while he's in their sight. The mom is WBC level rabid, while the dad is just a sensible person who just tries to get him to be a good kid. When he's out of sight of his parents, he just does normal teen stuff. Because of his mom, the only books he was allowed to own were Christian books and Bibles. He joined our group mainly as a way to escape his home life and his mom. A couple of weeks ago, the cancer in his lungs started to get to him, so he was taken to a hospital by his parents. He contacted me about this a day after he was taken to the hospital, stating that he wanted a monster manual as his last wish, stating that he was tired of reading the same things. I bought him the book from Barnes & Noble, but considering that he's a dying teen, I got him Volo's Guide to Monsters and Mordenkainen's Tome of Foes stacked on top of that. The next day, which was his birthday, he was still in the hospital, so I brought him the books as a gift. After he blew out the candles, we had cake and he started opening gifts. Mine was the first to be opened. Seeing what they were, he immediately got this humongous grin on his face and hugged me. Meanwhile, his mom stared down at the books with a look of pure disgust, with her husband staring at her with this wary look in his eyes. She picks up one of the books and relights one of the candles and holds the damn book over it to try and set it on fire. I managed to stop her and demand, "What the duck are you doing?" He asked me to get those books and I'm not going to let you take them away. His mom simply stared me down and said something along the lines of the books being sinful, satanic, and full of evil and that her son had no business with them. I retort and say that her son can read what he wants and that she shouldn't have to force him to be Christian. She starts getting red in the face and yelling at me about essentially forcing children to believe in God from a young age. I state that I'm a Baptist, which I actually am, and say that faith in God is a matter between God and the individual. She turns red all over and actively starts to try and destroy the books, with me, my friend, and her husband trying to stop her. At one point, I shouted, "Would God want you to do this? To restrict your dying son's freedom of expression?" Right in her face. This just sets her ducking ablaze. She tosses the books aside and starts trying to strangle her son. And her husband calls security immediately when she does this. Security get here within about a minute of the two of us trying to pry him off of her son and drag her away, with her shouting that we're all catamites to the devil. Both her husband and my friend charge her with child abuse, assault, and attempted murder. Trial's still going, and I'll try to update this post as the trial goes on. Edit. Holy shit, I came back to 300 karma and this with 3k upvotes. Thank you so much for your support. Edit 2. Whoever just gave me gold. Thank you so much. Edit 3. Thank you guys for the silver. Edit 4. Trial was almost a disaster. Me, him, and her husband all prosecuted against her. The moment she saw us she tried to tackle us shouting something about divine retribution, but the officers restrained her. During the whole thing, she kept pinning the blame on me and him, calling us corrupted by sin. Needless to say, she was pronounced guilty of all 3 charges that I mentioned earlier. The moment she heard this, she went apeshit and tried to attack the judge, but officers tased her to the floor. Now she'll be serving for 20 years for the other 3 charges, with 10 more on top of assaulting a court official. Thank you all for the support you guys gave us. Edit 5. To all who are wondering, my friend's fine. The cancer is gone from his lungs. You will date my daughter, or I'll get you fired. Edit. OMG, thank you guys so much for the support. I was really not expecting this post to blow up like it did, but shit happens. Love you all, and shout out to you /Bojipa for the silver. Much love. So for some context, I'm a 17-year-old male and I work at a Segway tour company. It's actually really fun. I get to ride segways around the city and talk to people, and get paid to do it. Plus the tipping isn't bad. So anyway, there was a tour booked a couple of days ago and I came in about 20 minutes early to answer emails and get everything ready. The group shows up, mother and daughter, and that's when things get interesting. I'm not going to insult your intelligence by telling you what EP and ME stand for, but D equals daughter and FBI equals Federal Bureau of Investigation. Just for some useful info, EP and D come in and I check them in. ME. Alright, I have some waivers for you to sign. D. How old are you? D. 16. ME. Okay, then you don't need to sign a waiver. I ask this because if kids are younger than 18, their parents sign the waivers for them. But EP only heard me say the first part, not when I said D didn't need to sign a waiver. So she thought I was just asking her daughter how old she was. This was probably what started it all. We go on the tour, and while I'm giving my spiel, EP keeps interrupting me to tell me stuff about D and find if we are compatible. ME. And so this non-profit organization opened in. EP. Are you in college? ME. Hell no. I'm a junior in high school. I'm usually pretty free with info about myself on tours because it helps keep people relaxed and initiates conversations during lulls in the tour. Plus it helps with tipping. EP. Oh. D is also a junior. She is an artist. Stuff like this keeps happening throughout the tour, and every time, D gets redder and redder. My mom does this too where she just tells random mall attendants about me, so I know what D is going through and I feel her pain. At the end of the tour, I tell the two of them that they have 15 minutes to go around the town and then they can meet me back at the Segway place. I get back and start getting things set up for their return. They roll in, pardon the pun, and I take their segways to start charging them. EP. So what do you think of my daughter? ME. Pardon me, what? EP. I saw you checking her out during the tour. Are you gonna ask her out? D. Mom. Stop. ME. Mom, I just recently got out of a relationship and I'm really not looking for anything right now. EP. What? ME. Huh. EP. Is my daughter not good enough for you? ME. No, that's not it. I just said that I just got out of a relation. EP. You are going to date my daughter and that's final. ME. You can't tell me what to do. I'm not your kid. And if I don't want to date your daughter I don't have to. Besides, you haven't even asked her if she wants to date me. D. Yep, I don't want to date him. ME. See? EP. I'm going to call your boss and tell him about your terrible customer service. You're never going to work in City Name again. ME. Pulling out my phone. Alright. You want to call him and explain this situation? How you're trying to force me to date your daughter and get me fired for saying no. Then I guess the absurdity of the situation finally sunk in, and her face transitioned from pure rage to slight confusion. EP. Wait, maybe I don't want to. ME. No, let's call him. Start to go through my contacts, and press my boss's name. Let's have this conversation. EP, I don't think that's a good idea. Phone starts ringing. EP, D, let's go. EP runs out the door. D turns to me and says I'm sorry, and then follows her mom. I hang up the phone before my boss answers and start cleaning the segways. I have some more stories from my work. Y'all tell me if you wanna hear more. Whoa, you made it to the end? You're a ducking beast. I'll cut you a deal. Smash like and subscribe for more curated content. It's free and that's a great price.